Echo is the newest Disney Plus exclusive miniseries by the MCU. It's a direct follow-up to Hawkeye, it's a follow-up to a whole bunch of things. It's set in the Daredevil universe, which is all part of the MCU now. That all makes me very excited. And this is set 5 months after the events of Hawkeye, where we saw Echo make her debut. And slight spoiler for the end of Hawkeye, just in case you haven't seen it, Maya Lopez ends up shooting Wilson Fisk. And yeah, Wilson Fisk is not dead, because he comes back here. Maya is being pursued by Wilson Fisk's organization, leading her to return to her hometown in Oklahoma. And this is where she must come to terms with her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and embrace her family and overall community. Now look, I wasn't really overly anticipating Echo upon its announcement, but then I saw the trailer and the TVMA label, and that's when I got really excited. Because at this point, Marvel's been around for 15 years, they have to try doing different things. They have to really dig deep into that darker element of their universe. Introducing Daredevil, introducing Kingpin certainly helps that along. And the fact that their only movie release of 2024 is going to be a rated R movie in Deadpool 3. Yeah, these changes have me very excited. And I think for a first TVMA rated R entry into the MCU, Echo isn't as brutal as I would have expected it to be. Yeah, there's certainly blood in here, and there's people shooting each other. And the hand-to-hand combat especially, there is one in the premiere episode that I was just so into. Like, all the action is really badass, and I really love Alaqua Cox's performance as Echo / Maya Lopez. I'm trying to pronounce your name correctly. If I didn't do so, I apologize. But this is a character that is very ice cold, but yet she is under so much duress and such a fugitive in her own right. It constantly feels like she is on the run, and you constantly feel like you are gripping your chair every single chase sequence you have here. I mean, the action element is just fantastic in Echo. And even though Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin isn't in this series a lot, the sequences he does have, man, it just has me so excited to see more of him. Especially after seeing him in that original Daredevil series on Netflix. He is slowly starting to become one of my favorite casting choices in any comic book property. He is just so imposing with everything he does, not just physically speaking, because obviously he's a very stocky dude, as Kingpin should be. But I think with how he's delivering a lot of his dialogue, you can't help but feel intimidated by him. And I think as a follow-up to Hawkeye, everything that you see between Echo and Kingpin, it's definitely enthralling television. Now, a lot of people on Twitter are calling Echo bottom of the barrel MCU and boring. I don't think the series is boring necessarily, but let's think about this for a second. Echo herself is not a well-known comic book name. And the MCU has done this in the past, where they've taken really obscure comic book properties, like a Doctor Strange, for example, and they've had to kind of spin their way to make him as relatable and as accessible to a general audience. A general audience that may not know exactly what this character is or how weird the character is. I think Echo falls into that same category, where a general audience really doesn't know who she is. And the series definitely establishes a backstory for her. And it's a heart-wrenching backstory, and it's definitely an interesting backstory. But I feel like this series needed a little bit more oomph to make you a little bit more invested. Which is why I can certainly see why some people on Twitter were calling this series boring. Because even though the series is making a solid effort to make you care about this character, I needed a little bit more. Because as it sits, this is just an okay series. It's an okay series in the regard that it makes you root for this character. And you definitely feel a whole arc for this character. These 5 episodes, very easy to binge. And it feels like it has a solid beginning, middle, and end. And you put all 5 of these episodes together, you kind of have a hidden MCU movie. Because it clocks in around 2 hours if you watch it all the way through. So in that regard, I think the series is definitely very accessible. And I appreciated the darker tones that this series was taking, but I feel like it was missing something, and I don't really necessarily know what it is, but I think it was missing just that extra step to make this character even more relatable and accessible. Because the character certainly has a lot going for her. Deaf actress, Native American community, the representation in here is very strong, and I love seeing that out of the MCU after all this time. But I think the series just needed a tad bit more development to really make it a standout. Because as it sits, Echo has some really good action and some solid performances. It's just an okay product to me, though. For a first TVMA entry, also pretty tame, because you don't hear anybody dropping F-bombs, really. There's no graphic nudity or anything. It's just a whole bunch of blood that's spewing everywhere. You don't necessarily see people's bones sticking out of their skin or anything. It's not that graphic of violence. I also feel like people unrealistically set their expectations super high for Echo because they saw that TVMA rating and they were like, yes, we're gonna get the most graphic violence out of any MCU movie. And I feel like there might have been more graphic violence in Winter Soldier. And that was a pretty hard PG-13, man. I don't know, guys. I think as it is, Echo is certainly a watchable, enjoyable series. I don't think it's one I'm going to be revisiting a ton, though, in regards to the entire MCU. I'm going to give Echo a B. Some good action, really great performances that set up a great future for the MCU. And a very compelling and different future for the MCU once you introduce characters like Daredevil into the mix. Not introducing Daredevil because you saw him in No Way Home, but you know what I mean. Getting more of him. Giving us Born Again. Giving us the follow-up to an excellent 3 seasons of television that was canceled way too soon. But let me know what you thought of Echo down in the comments. What is your favorite non-MCU Marvel project that's out there? What's your favorite Marvel TV show? Is it Daredevil? Is it Punisher? Is it something else? Because I love discussing all new things MCU. I love discussing all new things geeky over here. If these topics sound like appealing ones to talk about, well, you've come to the right place. It's a great community over here. So do consider subscribing today. Tap on that thumbs up as well. That would be a huge help. And of course, stay tuned for more videos very soon. Y'all are the best. And with all that being said, Back Talk commence.